It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the films of Labor Day weekend 1997, August 29th to be exact. We've got 5 movies to look at today. None of them really are all that memorable in terms of the quality. They were notable for the time period, but we can get through these pretty quickly. So let's go ahead and start off with our first movie that we have here, and that is the mafia crime drama, Hoodlum.
In a city ruled by organized crime, America's most dangerous men began a war. He wants a war? I'll settle the city with his blood over a line that should never have been crossed.
Anyone who's ever tried to pick him up has not done well.
You gonna shoot me this time? If so, you might want to lower that. Yeah. Lawrence Fishburne, Tim Roth, Vanessa Williams, and Andy Garcia as Lucky Luciano. Get ready for your final thrill. Hoodlum, rated R. Starts Wednesday, August 27th.
Basically another attempt to try to make a new Godfather movie, which, it didn't translate very well. This is a fictionalized account of the gang wars between the Italian-Jewish Mafia Alliance and the black gangsters of Harlem that took place in the 1920s and early 1930s. You see Lawrence Fishburne in there, Tim Roth, Andy Garcia, Vanessa Williams, also Cicely Tyson, Chi McBride, Clarence William III, they were in this film. For a movie that's set in 1930s Harlem, sure looks like this was shot in Chicago. It was literally shot in Chicago, too, so that kind of already takes you away from the mood of what this film's supposed to be. But other than that, though, the movie itself is not really all that clever or smart either. Like I said, it's a film that's trying to be a new generation's Godfather, and The Godfather was really hard to try to recreate for a new generation. I mean, you really have to have a really good script to try to, and a really good storyline and a good director to really get it going. I mean, Martin Scorsese, I think, already did it with Goodfellas in 1990. But I mean, there's a chance for something interesting to come out of this. I mean, this is not directed by a bad person. Bill Duke is actually a pretty decent director, but the writer, Chris Brancato, however, I don't really know what else he's done after this. We're looking right here. He did Stealing Harvard, which is not that great of a movie, but he did eventually go on to have a decent career. He co-wrote on Boomtown, the very underrated show. He went to work on Law and Order for many of the spin-offs, including Special Victims Unit and Criminal Intent. And he also did the show on Epic's Godfather of Harlem, which I've actually heard is a pretty good show. So maybe this was just a precursor to that. Maybe he thought this movie didn't work out the way he wanted it to, so eventually he got to work on that. And it turned out to be a whole lot better. I've actually heard a lot of good things about it. I don't really watch Epics all that much, so I don't really know if that's a great show or not, but I've seen clips of it, though. It definitely does look like it has a lot of promise to it. But as far as this film goes, a good cast that doesn't really have enough there to really make for a really entertaining film. I remember watching it once. I was actually kind of bored with it. I don't really remember too much about it, quite honestly. So a quick one on that one. That's Hoodlum. So let's go ahead and move to probably the most high profile of the new releases here, and that is Alicia Silverstone in Excess Baggage.
I don't know how you meet guys, but I met Vincent when he stole my car while I was in the middle of kidnapping myself. Now I guess we're fugitives or something. And to tell you the truth, it's kind of cool to be wanted.
I enjoyed it. Excess Baggage. Rated PG-13.
So this one was most notable because Alicia Silverstone, of course, she broke out 2 years ago with Clueless, but then she was in Batman and Robin, and I mean, at least she was trying in that movie. But in this film, this was the bigger bomb, because not only was she in this film, but she was also the producer of the film. Her production company was behind it, and also her and Benicio del Toro, her co-star, were also dating around the time of filming. And as we all know, you don't go and usually date your co-stars. Is you don't work with your spouse in Hollywood, because 9 times out of 10, it ends up backfiring big time. And no doubt about it, this thing backed up big time. Back down. This thing. What am I trying to say here? Backfire. That's what I was trying to say. Good Lord. This film backfired big time for her. I mean, she took a lot of flack for this movie, and really, it's not her fault. The movie just isn't really all that smart or all that clever. It's a film that really... It has a lot of the similar problems that we see in a number of different movies. It doesn't know which direction it wants to go for. Does it want to be a straight-up comedy, or does it want to be kind of something on the lines of Lethal Weapon, where it's an action comedy? And if you're going to do an action comedy, you need to get some people that really know how to handle an action comedy. I mean, like, I'm not asking you to go get somebody like a Mel Gibson or Danny Glover and Lethal Weapon or something like that, but you got to get somebody else besides Alicia Silverstone and Benicio del Toro, two actors who were still very young in their careers at this point, and they hadn't really done a whole lot of variety in terms of their roles in this. I mean, I don't know. The film itself was just a really, really lackluster misfire on a number of levels. The writing wasn't all that great. The comedy wasn't all that great. Even the chemistry from these two people who were dating on set clearly does not work in this movie. And, you know, it's hard to see. It was at a point where you're still hard to see Alicia Silverstone outside of her, outside of her character from Clueless. Like, when you watch this, you just keep feeling like this is her character from Clueless. Now I can't remember who it is. Now I'm having trouble with this one today. Cher Horowitz, that's what I'm thinking of. Good Lord, this is a tough one for me to get through on my perspective. But it's like you're still watching Cher from Clueless, and she doesn't really do a good job of distancing herself. I mean, it would take her a couple, but granted, it's not the worst thing. It's not the worst thing that could have happened. Actually, this could be the worst thing that happened to her, but at the same time, it got better for her afterwards. I mean, after this, she did Blast from the Past, which also starred Christopher Walken, who's in this movie, and she was actually really good in that. And she did star in some better movies after this film crashed and burned. So this could have easily destroyed her career pretty quickly, but it didn't really do that. But at the same time, you still can't look at it and not think to yourself, this is such a missed opportunity, considering everyone that's on board, considering the talent that's on board here. Especially this director, Marco Brambilla, who also did Demolition Man, which is a good, fun, over-the-top action film. But after that, though, this film really was not... After that, though, this film just... It failed on so many levels. It's a film that probably had some potential going for it, but it just needed a better script and a better way of handling the direction it wanted to take. Does it want to be taken as a straight-up comedy or an action comedy? What does it want to be? Like, it didn't really figure out what kind of a direction it wanted to take, so... This was the end result of it. A mostly forgettable film, and a largely bad film, quite honestly. So that is excess baggage, and let's go ahead and move on to another bad film that came out this weekend. We are in the second dumping ground of the year, so here's Kevin Sorbo as Kull the Conqueror.
Ways only one man can tell the forces of darkness just where to go. You are ugly. Kevin Sorbo is Kull the Conqueror, rated PG-13.
Speaking of movies that have no idea which direction they're going for, here's another one, Kull the Conqueror, which actually started off as the third Conan movie. It was supposed to be Conan the Conqueror with Arnold Schwarzenegger, but he did not want to return for that, so they basically rewrote it for Kevin Sorbo to redo a character he had already played, and the character was then changed to Kull the Conqueror. And this is another one of those films where studio interference got in the way big time, because they were trying to set this up as a big step for Kevin Sorbo, who had spent many years on Hercules: The Legendary Journeys, and let's just say it did not work that way. It's a film that is really boring, really not entertaining whatsoever, and it's hard not to look at this and think to yourself, this could have been another Conan movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and they decided that, and even he knew. Arnold Schwarzenegger knew to step away from this movie. Like, that's how you know how bad this movie is. Like, it's a bad movie. Like, it's a film that really does not know if it wants to be taken seriously, or if it wants to be a comedy, or wants to be cheesy, wants to be over the top. But it just can't decide what to do with that. And all they want to do is just make Kevin Sorbo a movie star in this film, and it just doesn't work. It's not a film that's entertaining whatsoever. It's a really lame movie. It's a lame movie on so many levels, and what more do I gotta say? Kull the Conqueror is not a good movie. Plain and simple. So, anyway, on to the next film. She's So Lovely.
Explosive, passionate, one of this year's great films.
For whatever reason, she belongs to me.
It's the story of two men with nothing in common, except the one person in the world
I love this guy, okay? I love you too.
neither of them can live without.
You are such a beautiful woman. Make up your mind, babe.
Sean Penn, Robin Wright Penn, and John Travolta. She's So Lovely.
I swear to God, I'm gonna shoot somebody. We came for dinner. It's not that kind of an evening.
Rated R.
So yeah, you got some notable names in here. Sean Penn, Robin Wright, John Travolta. You see Harry Dean Stanton there. James Gandolfini is here as well. The story is basically that Robin Wright plays a character who drinks and smokes to excess even though she's pregnant, and her husband Eddie, played by Sean Penn, is in trouble of his own. and she's physically and sexually assaulted by James Gandolfini, who plays plays the abusive neighbor. It's more for Eddie to handle. So he shoots somebody, lands in a psychiatric hospital. 10 years go by. Eddie finally returns only to find out that Maureen is now clean and sober and is married to a new man played by John Travolta and a mother of 3 children, one of whom is Eddie's own daughter. So Eddie's return complicates and endangers all their lives. And that premise alone and that trailer, the way we just looked at it, it just feels like it's so much. It just feels so. Again, it's kind of the theme of what we're going through from much of these movies. The tonal shifts in these movies don't really make a whole lot of sense. The trailer makes it seem like it's this lighthearted comedy, but this sounds much more serious than a comedy. Like, I think that's part of the reason why this movie didn't do so well financially. It got decent reviews, honestly, and for Nick Cassavetes, who had this was only his second film, and actually used some footage that was actually used from his father, John Cassavetes, who had died 8 years prior to this. So it's still pretty interesting. It's interesting how they handle that, but I don't know. I think I've never seen this movie before, and I think the reason why is because of trailers like that. If I saw the trailer for that and actually saw the movie, I don't think I'd be satisfied by what I got from this, because that trailer just, it's kind of the theme of what we're going for, like I said, for much of the movies this week, a tonal shift. There's no problem with the tonal shifts in these movies. Like, is this supposed to be a serious drama, or is this supposed to be a comedy? But you can't really tell them apart, honestly. But like I see here, the reviews for this aren't terrible per se, but I don't know. Like, I've never heard anybody really talk about this. I've never seen it before, so I don't really know for certain if it's any good or not. It could be, honestly, but I don't know. I don't think I'd check it out anytime soon, honestly. I think maybe I need a good hook to really make me want to see this in full. But other than that, though, that came out this weekend. So let's go ahead and wrap this up with the last one we have here, and that is Trojan Eddie. So Stephen Ray is the small-time ex-con who discovers he has talents from selling anything and everything. He sees a way to rise above the lowlife by settling up his own, but what he didn't bargain for was the murder and mayhem along the way. You see Richard Harris in here, Stuart Townsend is also in here as well, and that's really all I know about this film, other than also Brendan Gleeson's also in here too. But I've never seen this movie. I tried going to the Wikipedia page, and you want to see what the Wikipedia page for this? That's it. Trojan Eddie is a 1996 British-Irish crime drama film directed by Gillis McKinnon. And that's it. It's just like, that's all you need to know. Good night, folks. And it's just like, that's kind of the reason why I don't really have a whole lot to say about this one. I've never seen this film before. It has some good talent on board with it, I'm not going to lie, but if the Wikipedia page only has that and that's all it really has to tell you about this film, probably not that memorable, quite honestly. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you, man. Trojan Eddie, it came out this weekend, and I have no idea if it's any good or not. So with that said, that wraps up another edition of Time About the Movies. We'll jump into the fall next time around. We jump into September with only 2 movies, including Steven Seagal in Fire Down Below, as well as Latin Boys Go to Hell. So 2 movies there we'll look at. Should be another quick show, honestly. But we'll delve into those in the next episode. But until then, thank you very much for watching as I stand at attention to you, but thank you guys for watching this one. If you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and always hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more on this channel. So, thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys next time for another episode, and until then, take care.